Hi, my name is Dr. John Douillard and welcome to LifeSpa.com, where we prove ancient medical wisdom with modern science. And today I want to talk about vegetarianism. The incredible benefits of being a vegetarian, a more predominantly on a plant-based diet, are indisputable. Studies show that people who are vegetarians have lower body mass index, they have better weight control, lower cholesterol, lower LDLs, higher HDLs, lower risk of diabetes, lower risk of numerous cancers, lower cholesterol, lower blood pressure, lower heart disease, lower stroke. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, suggesting that we may be better off on a plant-based diet. But that doesn't suggest that being a vegetarian doesn't come without some risk. A lot of people are not the greatest vegetarians. So in this article and video, I want to talk about just a heads up for those on a plant-based diet to say, what should I be on the watch for to make sure I don't become deficient as part of my very healthy, more plant-based diet or a vegetarian diet. And some of those things are just protein in general. If you're going to be a vegetarian, just to start it out, definitely think about eating, you got to be cooking at least 2 hours a day, and beans have to be a staple in your diet. If you look at the centenarian cultures who live over 100 years old on a regular basis, they all have beans, usually 2 servings of beans per day. Beans have a ridiculous amount of fiber and amazing amount of protein. The fiber takes the bile, which is all the toxins, to the toilet, forces you to make brand new bile every day, and it also is loaded with protein, which we desperately need to keep the blood sugar stable. When people go on a vegetarian diet and they're not getting protein, they oftentimes crave more carbohydrates and more processed foods and sort of junky, sweeter foods. And as a result of that, the protein can become a little unstable, and the people can get dizzy and crave, lethargic, don't sleep at night. Their joints can begin to ache because the synovial fluids are loaded with protein, and the body will rob that protein from the synovial fluids to deal with lack of protein in the diet and leave the joints sort of on the achier side. So if you have candy stuffed in your glove box or in your house here and there, and you're a vegetarian and you're sort of craving a lot and dizzy or not feeling as mood stable as you'd like, you may be a little on the protein deficient side. So read my free ebook called the Protein Deficiency ebook, Are You Getting Enough Protein? And that can help resolve that. But the point of this discussion goes a little bit deeper. There are other nutritional deficiencies that can be a problem with vegetarians, including B12, vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids, calcium, iron, and zinc. So these are common deficiencies that come along with a vegetarian diet. Now, that's not to say if you're a vegetarian, you're going to be deficient in some of these things, but there are things to watch out for. Before I get into these, I want to say that if you're, a meat eater, you should be thinking about how we can dial down the production of the meat that we eat, because the studies are pretty conclusive that the more plant-based we are, the better. If you look at the centenarian people who live over 100 on a regular basis, they eat about 10% of their diet as animal protein. That's it. And if you think about the problem with eating meat every day, 2 or 3 times a day, is it's unsustainable for a growing population on this planet, which is really, we're struggling to figure out how we're going to feed all these people. I've written articles about the waste that we have. If we can just reuse the foods that aren't pretty, like the ugly bananas and the ugly oranges, and eat those, we could solve those problems. But also, meat is just such an unsustainable way to feed so many people when we're eating it 3 times a day. 10% of your diet changes the math dramatically. And that seems to be the healthiest way to go. So if you're not ready to become a full-blown vegetarian, then definitely be thinking, maybe I can do just 10%. I can start dialing down my meat. I'll give you an example. Meat eaters produce a chemical when they eat meat called DMAO, which is a cancer-causing chemical when you're from meat eating. But when they gave that same red meat to vegetarians, they didn't produce this cancer-causing chemical, sort of suggesting that if vegetarians can eat meat, who always say, I can't eat meat, I don't know how to digest it. Well, when they gave them the meat, they actually did really well on it. But meat eaters who eat it too much overproduce this chemical, somehow can't process that chemical the way it should, suggesting that maybe meat might be okay, but in in much reduced amounts. Okay, so that would be just sort of the global picture of how do we kind of dial ourselves into more of a 10% animal protein diet. That may be the better way to go, which includes your eggs and your cheese, and all of those animal products are included in your 10%, giving us 90% plant-based foods, which is really valuable. B12, one of those deficiencies vegetarians have to watch out for. Vegans, one study showed that they're 80% deficient in B12. Vegetarians are like 63% deficient in B12. So they have to figure out how to get B12, and now sublingual B12 with good natural folate. We have one called B12 Boost. You take one of those a day under your tongue. Sublingual absorption has been shown to match B12 shots in terms of efficiency and absorption. So that problem, if you're a vegetarian, you should just know about it, take a B12 supplement, and forget about it. Okay, and that's the way to do it. And get your blood sugar, your B12 levels tested on a regular basis to make sure. Vitamin D, another deficiency that affects a lot of vegetarians. It's also a deficiency that affects every American. 87% of Americans are deficient in vitamin D as well. But the sources, food sources of vitamin D are animal products. So we have to look at all of us a little low on vitamin D in the winter because there's no sun. The UV rays or the UVB rays that make vitamin D are too low in the sky in the winter north of Atlanta. So we're just not going to get any, even if it's sunny outside. You're not going to get any vitamin D in the winter months. So some type of supplementation should be good. Get your vitamin D levels checked on a regular basis. Make sure your numbers are between 50 to 80 nanograms per milliliter. If you don't have access to a blood test, we have a home test kit you can use. It just gets shipped to your house, and you can do it that way. But make sure those numbers are good. Omega-3 fatty acids or fish oils, again, another deficiency that's common in vegetarians, and you want to think about ways to get your omega-3 fatty acids, flax seeds, chia seeds, convert into they have a lot of alpha-linoleic acids, which converts into those omega-3s, the DHA and EPAs, which come from fish, but they do it in a very inefficient way. But you have to make sure there are omega-3 fatty acid sources from algae that you can get, but making sure that you're getting your good amount of good quality fats, particularly your omega-3 fatty acids, is critical, particularly in a culture where we have way too many omega-6s, which are the highly processed polyunsaturated fatty acids, which are really not good for you. And in the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years or so, the percentage of omega-6s to omega-3s has gone up, where it used to be omega-3s were way higher. So that distortion is something that we all have to be aware of. But again, vegetarians show in the science that they are more at risk for that. And then the minerals, that calcium, iron, and zinc. You know, cows are vegetarians, and there's more calcium in the vegetables they're eating from the ground. They are getting the minerals that they need. People say that vegetarian diets which are loaded with grains that have a lot of phytic acids block the absorption of iron and other minerals in the body. But the study showed that the people who actually eat a high phytic acid diet, a high grain diet on the planet in a traditional sense, they have significantly higher levels of iron and calcium and zinc than other people. So what's the real cause of why vegetarians are a little low on some of these minerals? Now, the soils are depleted in minerals. That's a fact. I wrote a big article about mineral deficiencies. I'm not a big fan of mineral supplementation, but I am a fan of mineral supplementation because they're just not available as much as they should. So as a baseline support, a little bit of highly absorbable mineral support may be a really good idea for all of us, not just vegetarians, but vegetarians are the ones that have to have that mineral deficiency on their radar more than, say, the big meat eaters, right, who are going to eventually eat less and less meat and become more plant-based anyway. And so therefore they have to be careful of their mineral absorption and consumption. Bottom line there, I believe in mineral absorption, because vegetarians are usually eating tons of minerals. It's digestive strength. And not to say this is the reason, but 75% of Americans have issues with their digestion. A lot of people become vegetarians because they don't digest the standard American diet very well. They don't eat meat, they don't feel good in their digestion, so they keep trying different diets and they end up feeling great on an easier to digest vegetarian diet. that makes sense. A lot of people become vegetarians just for completely other reasons, and I totally get that. But a lot of folks may be becoming vegetarian because they have an underlying digestive imbalance that they never actually fixed. We just mitigated by changing the diet and eating different foods that were somewhat easier to digest. My point is that be a vegetarian, that's great, but go back and fix the real problem. And that's actually why I wrote my book, Eat Wheat, one of my books, Eat Wheat. And in Eat Wheat, I take you through a troubleshooting guide, a step-by-step guide to troubleshoot every aspect of your digestion and reboot digestive strength. And that's my point, is that wheat is not such the poison that people think it is. It's just a hard to digest protein. And people who have trouble with it probably have underlying digestive issues. And taking the food out of the diet doesn't usually solve the underlying problem. Makes you feel better for sure, temporarily, but we're about fixing the real problem. And that's the name of the game, is to get that underlying problem really taken care of. So, and I've written a ton of articles on digestive health and how to reboot and troubleshoot your digestion as well on my website. We have over 1,000 articles and videos online, all for free, about how to help your digestive system. So numerous strategies there. I think that's the key. If you're a vegetarian, make darn sure that digestive strength is really, really good, so you're not running the risk of some of those mineral deficiencies. Again, this article associated with this video is really about just a heads up. If you're a plant-based eater, vegetarian, on a vegetarian diet, just make sure that you're not running the risk of some of these deficiencies that have been shown to be linked to vegetarian diet. That said, vegetarian diet across the board is a way healthier diet. I just want to make sure it's perfect for you. All right, so check out that article. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. John Douillard. Do you like this video? Don't forget to subscribe and share.
This recording is brought to you by LifeSpa, where ancient Ayurvedic wisdom meets modern science. Get access to free health video newsletters by Dr. John at lifespa.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.